Welcome to an exploration of a lesser-known facet of Native American culture that has sparked intrigue and fascination. Many people are aware of the rich traditions and resilient spirit of Native American communities, yet few have delved into the unique cultural norms that shape their personal lives. Today, we focus on the Powhatan tribes and an intriguing aspect of their marital arrangements that challenges conventional ideas about relationships. In Powhatan society, some wives had the freedom to engage in extramarital relationships, a practice openly accepted and even endorsed by their husbands. This arrangement wasn't merely about personal freedoms, it reflected deep-seated cultural values and norms. While it may seem surprising to us today, this tradition offers a glimpse into the Powhatan's distinct understanding of family, trust, and social harmony. As we journey through this topic, we'll uncover how these marital practices were not about individual desires but rather a testament to cultural cohesion and the unique ways Powhatan women navigated societal expectations. This isn't just a story of relationships, it's a window into a world where community values often transcended personal pursuits. So sit back and join us as we delve into the traditions of the Powhatan Confederacy, led by the formidable Chief Powhatan. Discover how this alliance of Algonquian-speaking tribes, known as Senecamacca, thrived in early 17th century Virginia. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest insights into the vibrant history and culture of Native American tribes. Let's dive into this fascinating chapter of history that challenges preconceptions and celebrates the diversity of human traditions. Chief Powhatan's legacy is closely intertwined with the early English settlers at Jamestown, particularly through the famous story of his daughter, Pocahontas, and her association with Captain John Smith. The Powhatan people inhabited the Tidewater region of Virginia, where they skillfully utilized the land and water resources for agriculture, hunting, and fishing. Their society was distinctly matrilineal, meaning descent and inheritance were passed down through the female line, a structure that likely influenced family roles and relationships profoundly. In Powhatan culture, marriage held significant social and economic importance. These unions were not just about personal affection but were practical partnerships vital for the community's well-being. Men and women worked in tandem to ensure survival, each playing distinct yet complementary roles. Men took on the responsibility of initiating courtship, showcasing their duty to select a partner capable of contributing to the community's needs. While women could decline marriage proposals, parental approval was essential for acceptance, reflecting the collective nature of these unions. Although specific details of Powhatan marriage rituals and customs are sparse, it's clear that spiritual beliefs and cultural traditions likely played a pivotal role. Their marriages were elaborate, with courtship and ceremonies underscoring the value placed on harmony and continuity within the tribe. Through these practices, the Powhatan people maintained a sense of identity and ensured the social fabric remained strong, showcasing a culture where community and collaboration were paramount. Join us as we delve into the intricate customs of the Powhatan Confederacy. By understanding their matrilineal structure, courtship customs, and marriage rituals, we gain insight into a society that, although ancient, offers timeless lessons about unity, resilience, and the power of partnership. In Powhatan society, courtship began with men presenting gifts of food to their prospective brides, demonstrating their capability as providers. This gesture set the stage for negotiations concerning the bride's wealth. Rather than a dowry, the bride's family received compensation for the loss of her labor, reflecting the economic interdependence within the tribe. The marriage ceremony itself was a significant event, held at the bride's home and marked by symbolic rituals. One notable tradition involved breaking a chain of shell beads over the couple's heads, a gesture that underscored the unity of the marriage and its importance to the entire community. While first marriages were traditionally lifelong commitments, additional marriages could be arranged for set periods, illustrating a flexible approach to relationships. One intriguing aspect of Powhatan marital customs was the sexual freedom afforded to wives, with the husband's permission. Although this might seem scandalous from an outsider's perspective, It was likely more about communal values and cultural norms than personal indulgence. In fact, husbands sometimes extended this practice to include loaning their wives to guests as a gesture of hospitality, which highlighted the community-oriented nature of relationships within Powhatan society. This openness contrasts with practices observed in other Native American tribes, where marriage customs varied widely. Among the Choctaw, for example, men typically married around age 25 and women at 23. The Blackfoot, on the other hand, showed a significant age gap, with women marrying as young as 10 to 16 and men waiting until at least 35. Tribal ceremonies, such as those of the Modoc, often merged social gatherings with rhythmic songs and other intimate acts, embodying a deep connection between communal celebrations and personal relationships. The diversity in these marriage practices across tribes offers a window into the rich tapestry of Native American cultural traditions. Join us as we explore these distinctive customs that challenge modern assumptions and reveal the complexity and variety of relationship dynamics within Native American history. Additionally, celebrating a girl's first menstruation with a dance was a sign that she was ready for marriage. Over time, marriage norms also change. In the 16th century, common law marriage just before puberty was first prevalent among Native Americans. But over time, child marriage became more common. In the late 19th century, girls often married between the ages of 10 and 16, while men delayed marriage until age 35 or later. Culturally, especially among the Comanches, who placed little importance on virginity, prepubescent children were encouraged to participate in sexual play. Among the Navajo and Powhatan, it has been observed that masturbation was accepted as a normal aspect of a young child's life. The Powhatan received sex education from maternal uncles and aunts, and children were specifically warned against heterosexual acts. These teachings emphasized the dangers associated with early sexual experimentation. With the onset of puberty, noticeable behavioral changes were observed. Sexual play between brothers became taboo, while initiation rites and relationships between teenagers became more common, reflecting changing social dynamics. Water play provided opportunities for sexual intimacy, but the Mojave avoided real-life relationships because they believed that sex in the water could lead to certain diseases. Mutual masturbation was rare, but older boys occasionally engaged in forced anal intercourse. Childhood explorations mirrored adult life. Mojave children participated in masturbation contests, played families, and imitated adult relationships. Age groups were often forgotten, and children were free to imitate adult roles. Finally, challenges arose regarding knowledge of childbirth and modern parental control. Some tribes did not have elaborate puberty rites, which contributed to girls' lack of knowledge about childbirth. Modern issues such as inadequate discipline raised issues of parental control, and the need to separate children if they perceived gender differences. Adults viewed children's sexual play as entertainment, not as a cause for alarm. This laid-back attitude towards child-rearing continued to influence people later on. Sometimes, groups of young men gather in Powhatan and lure small children into their huts, where they try to engage in sex and other sexual games. Chocobo boys chase girls, apparently trying to touch their sensitive body parts, and may try to drug them if they are caught. Boys as young as 6 or 7 years old built small houses in the forest and played with girls their own age, imitating adult sex. Interestingly, Indian parents not only teach their children to masturbate, but also to ejaculate. Powhatan young men and women must drink semen. The Powhatan also have the practice of isolating their 7-year-old young men from the young women for long periods of time. During this time, they are pierced, have nosebleeds, and must drink the sperm of the tribe's strongest warriors. They are sexually active from an early age. Young men begin sexual intercourse between the ages of 10 and 12, while young women do not begin until age 6. Around age 13, these men have sex with older women who teach them how to best satisfy their partners. Young women have the habit of dancing with a piece of apple tucked under their arm before taking to the dance floor. Each gives his share to the man of his choice, who then eats it. In addition, the Powhatan build love lodges where young girls can have sex with different men until they find the right man among the Powhatan. Elders build love lodges for their young daughters. 1036. Many young people spend the night here for several days until they find the right partner to stay with them forever. They basically practice polygamy. Brothers each share a wife, so there are never too many children for the limited land. Despite the children being married at a young age, the Powhatan hold an annual wife-snatching festival in which men don elaborate makeup and costumes and hold a Gearwolf festival. They secretly try to steal the wives of others, and if they are successful without being caught, the marriage is recognized as a special courtship and wedding. Specific and clear gender roles were expected in the Powhatan Indian community of Seneca Moco. Women bore children, tended to agriculture, gathered fuel, slaughtered animals, cooked, made household items, procured food, and supervised young children. Men, on the other hand, actively participated in hunting, fishing, clearing land, war, and attended political and military meetings. A balance of these tasks was necessary to survive. They were dependent on partners of the opposite sex for their survival. Marriage was therefore primarily an economic arrangement, not a romantic one. Men were allowed to have multiple wives, especially as a symbol of the chief's wealth, if they could provide for them financially. Paramount Chief Powhatan Wafsankoh reportedly had up to 100 wives in his lifetime. The first marriage was intended to last a lifetime, but additional marriages were often negotiated for shorter terms. As long as they were not married to a chief, women could have extramarital affairs with their husband's consent, but cheating was severely punished. Virginia Indians maintained the custom of marrying long after meeting the English, and intermarriage between Indians and English settlers was rare. Written records by British colonists indicate that physical beauty was important in choosing a wife. A woman became eligible for marriage once she reached puberty and was able to fulfill her childbearing obligations. In traditional societies, a man could marry once he completed the Huskaner ceremony, which marked his transition into manhood. This initiation gave them the status they needed to perform tasks such as hunting, fishing, and fighting. The courtship process began with the man presenting gifts of food to the potential bride, demonstrating his ability to provide. Women were free to decline the marriage proposal, but in case the proposal was accepted, negotiations regarding the bride's wealth took place and a mutual agreement was made that the groom or his parents would pay a sum of money to the bride's parents. This bride's wealth acted as compensation for the work the bride lost when she left her family to join her husband. A feast is held after successful negotiations, and the man prepares for married life. Often the man is supported by donations from his female relatives. The formal wedding ceremony takes place in the bride's home, during which bride property is exchanged, hands are joined, and a pearl necklace on a shell is symbolically broken. The newlyweds then take up residence, probably in the city of the groom's parents if they are from different places of origin. In terms of historical interactions, early relations between the Powhatan people, who moved to Jamestown, Virginia in 1607, and the English settlers were complicated. Initially, the Native Americans treated them with hostility, perhaps influenced by previous encounters with Spanish explorers, but eventually offered the newcomers their traditional hospitality and food. Powhatan, leader of a confederation of tribes around the Chesapeake Bay, initially sought to assimilate with the English through hospitality. However, as the colonists pursued quick wealth while neglecting basic tasks such as crop cultivation, their reliance on the Indians for food supplies increased. During the colony's difficult early years, the leadership of Captain John Smith played a key role in the colony's survival. Smith explored the region and established trade with the local Indians, but unfortunately advocated policies similar to those of the Spanish in their treatment of the Indians, including forced labor and slavery. When food negotiations failed, Smith took what he needed by force. In 1609, Chief Powhatan acknowledged the English colonists' intention to stay, but was disappointed when they did not return his hospitality. or marrying a local woman is considered an insult from the locals' point of view. Knowing of the English invasion and occupation of his land, Powhatan's people resorted to attacking the settlers, destroying their livestock, and burning their crops. Powhatan claimed ignorance and lack of control on the part of the young men who committed these acts, but he made these statements from the perspective of John Smith, a significantly biased observer. Over the next decade, the settlers searched and destroyed Indian settlements, burning villages and cornfields. Both sides committed atrocities, and Powhatan eventually reached an uneasy truce after the settlers captured his daughter, Pocahontas, who later married John Rolfe, leading to improved relations. Furthermore, the famous British explorer Captain Cook arrived in 1778 and was initially warmly welcomed by the locals. However, in return for their hospitality, Cook and his crew brought diseases, especially tuberculosis, which caused a significant decline in the population. Sexually transmitted diseases such as syphilis and gonorrhea further exacerbated the situation, leading to a rapid decline in fertility with each generation. Food traditions were particularly harsh for women, who were subject to execution for eating certain foods. Men and women could be intimate, but could not share staples such as poi or tarot cards from the same bowl. Under Western influence, the royals eventually abandoned these traditions. From the perspective of intra-family relations, incest among royals mirrored the practices of ancient European royal families, both of which aimed to maintain and extend the family line. Brothers with more direct ties would often marry in order to produce offspring with as much mana, or divine life force, as possible. However, such practices were not considered acceptable in modern times. Society viewed the expression of sexuality as something very private that people kept separate from their public activities. Sexuality was present almost everywhere. People wove sexual references into dances, songs, and place names after them. Pleasure was something that had to be openly balanced with family, religion, and country. Their language was also full of sensual expressions. They introduced concepts such as sex work, adultery, illegitimacy, and sin, which had a lasting impact on the culture. Nudity was not considered sexual. There were many reasons to be naked, but very few of them had to do with sex. It was perfectly acceptable to go skinny dipping with your family, or to surf or do water sports. Women often covered themselves with bare breasts and robes, not out of modesty, but to protect themselves from the elements. Public nudity was also a sign of overwhelming sadness or insanity, sometimes done as a sign of shame or submission, and most often when a man became pregnant. Since sex with other men's wives was common, it was no big deal if one was not married to one's own husband. According to the memoirs of an English girl who grew up among the Powhatan, it was possible for a woman to become pregnant with a child that was not her husband's. It was not illegal, and the child could live in the community just like the wife. 7:45 p.m. There was no stigma attached to a woman in the community if she became pregnant by a man other than her husband. It wasn't like swapping partners in the suburbs. It was a matter of survival. Similarly, it was not uncommon for childless couples to receive children from other families and happily raise them as their own. Polygamy was widespread. Having multiple wives was a sign that a man could afford to care for multiple wives and was evidence of his wealth. When Christianity was introduced to Powhatan Island, the polygamous population decreased but did not disappear. When a man knew he would be away from home for a while, he arranged for his wife to have a second wife, knowing that she would be protected during his absence. The Eskimos believe that Powhatan's ideas about homosexuality without sexual affinity are inconsistent with Western understanding of the subject. However, opinions about infidelity and multiple marriages vary widely among Powhatan communities. Among the Powhatan, it was believed that a first marriage lasted a lifetime, except when one spouse was captured in war, leaving the remaining partner free to find another. Subsequent marriages were permitted even without a formal divorce. For example, a married man could court and marry additional women, especially if he demonstrated his ability to care for them, making his wife a status symbol. Although chiefs, especially the paramount chiefs in Mamanatowich, often took multiple wives. It remains unclear whether female chiefs ever had multiple husbands. The hierarchy, division of household duties, and sleeping arrangements among the wives have not been well documented by British observers. The highest-ranking chief Powhatan would keep his wife until she gave birth to a child, after which he would return home. William Strachey, secretary of the Virginia Company in London and author of A History of a Journey to Virginia Britannia, 1612, suggested that Powhatan may have had over 100 wives, who lived in various houses and took turns attending to him. The women, who were also his work partners and took on tasks such as growing corn and cooking, were expected to entertain guests lavishly, adorning themselves with precious furs, jewels, and face paint to impress visitors. Strachey noted that Powhatan preferred and enjoyed more than a dozen women among his many, especially the younger women. Perhaps the English did not know that all these women were actively involved in household chores. Henry Spelman, who spoke the Powhatan's Algonquian dialect fluently, said that the Powhatan chose their wives based on beauty, and that family background may have played a role. Chiefs and experienced politicians like Powhatan probably married women from other cities to attract in-laws who would be allies. Powhatan's habit of holding on to his wife until she gave birth to children allowed him to collect a large number of wives and to build valuable family ties through their children. Spelman emphasized the importance of children, pointing out that many wives who produced many descendants were able to support their parents in old age, creating a family and social support system. Specific details regarding other sexual practices are less well documented, but like other human societies, the Powhatan likely had customs and norms regarding intimate relationships. The roles of men and women in Powhatan society as perceived by the English colonists may have influenced these practices. It is important to approach this issue with cultural sensitivity and to recognize the limitations of the historical record. Native American cultures are very diverse, and it is important not to generalize or make assumptions about the details of Powhatan intimate life based on limited information. Additionally, discussions of native cultures should emphasize respect and avoid perpetuating stereotypes or eroticizing practices. Information about intimate aspects of Powhatan life, including sex life, is limited and often speculative. Available historical records from the British colonial period provide insight into Powhatan culture, but these records are biased and filtered through the colonizer's perspective. In addition, Native American societies often had oral traditions that were not well documented by European observers. Understanding the sex life of the Powhatan requires a thoughtful and culturally sensitive approach. It is important to avoid imposing a Eurocentric perspective on Native American culture and to recognize the diversity of Native American societies. Different tribes have different customs, beliefs, and practices, so generalizations should be avoided. While we can infer certain aspects of Powhatan's personal life based on available historical records and general knowledge of Native American culture, a comprehensive and accurate understanding remains difficult due to limited and biased sources. It is important to approach such issues with humility, while recognizing the gaps in our knowledge and respecting the diversity of Native American cultures. With this thought, we close today's episode of Shades of Greatness. Thanks again for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Check out the next video.